Hello, Global Desis. After years of living outside India, today I'm going to share with you 5 important lessons that I've learned from less spoken about aspect of Indian expat life to help you navigate your cultural journey with more awareness, find balance between two worlds, and create a more fulfilling life abroad. Usually, when we talk about what Indians miss while living abroad, the conversation usually follows a predictable script, doesn't it? We all nod along to missing family. Yeah, that's very important. Food, festivals, weddings, and vibrant celebration. Of course, these are big, obvious differences, and everybody acknowledges this. On the flip side, there are also certain things that we do not miss. For example, the pollution, the poor air quality, the chaotic traffic, the bureaucratic inefficiencies, and the lack of orderliness in our public spaces, etc. Now, these contrasts make for interesting conversation starters at every Desi gathering or even any non-Desi gathering. But sometimes, standing in a perfectly orderly queue at a bus stop or sitting on a park bench at lunchtime, thousands of miles away from home, we can still be overcome with a strange longing that we just can't quite name, something that's beyond the usual list. These are the small cultural differences that are not deal breakers and therefore not spoken about often, but equally determine how we navigate the world, build relationships, and find meaning in our lives. My friends, while the big differences between India and abroad get all the attention, often it's these subtle, overlooked little aspects of daily life that profoundly shape our experiences as global Indians. So today, I'm going to take you on a very light journey through 5 everyday things that I miss about India and things that we rarely talk about. The purpose of this video is simple: to try and articulate the hidden psychological impact of cultural transition, to share with you practical ways to recreate the best parts of these Indian experiences whilst you're abroad, to provide insight into how to explain these cultural differences to your non-Indian friends, to explore how to use these insights for personal growth in your cross-cultural journey, and finally, to see how to balance the pros and cons of both these cultural approaches. The first thing I want to talk to you about is our unique sense of time and our interesting relationship with the clock. Now, my friends, you all know that we've learned this the hard way over a period of time, that it's not necessarily a good thing in India to be the first to arrive for a party or to a dinner invitation. Now, growing up in India, time had elasticity, time had a range. Birthday parties with a 7 p.m. invitation meant that guests would start arriving usually by around 8:30 p.m. Sometimes even the host wouldn't be available there by 7 p.m. themselves. Now, who else but us Indians to uphold the value of the term fashionably late? So, what happened during our very first dinner invitation in the UK was, as true creatures of habit, we turned up about half an hour late, thinking that we'd still be quite early and one of the first ones to arrive, only to reach there and find out that the guests were already seated at the table and dinner was served, and the host was looking at us with slightly concerned eyes if everything was all right for us in the new country as we were late. In India, the term "we'll be there in 5 minutes" would usually mean half an hour. Our relationship with the clock was always interesting and sometimes negotiable as well. According to a study published in the International Journal of Intercultural Relation, Indians score significantly higher on polychronic time orientation, which is basically the ability to do multiple things simultaneously and be flexible with schedule. This also seemed to create a unique social advantage in the sense that plans can be impromptu and made on the go. For example, within an hour and a few phone calls, you can gather 6 to 8 family members from different parts of the cities at a restaurant. No calendar invites required, no 2-week advance planning, just spontaneous connections. Now, this seldom happens in the Western countries, my friend. That gathering would have taken a shared spreadsheet and multiple scheduling apps. Research from the World Values Survey also shows that societies with flexible time orientations report higher levels of social connection and lower rates of isolation. There's also something deeply human about this approach, prioritizing people over schedules. But as we all know, there's also a flip side to this coin. We tend to take the same casual approach to time in our professional and business lives in the name of flexibility, which means there are project deadlines which drift, appointments start late, and the Indian Standard Time is often referred to as Indian Stretchable Time and has become a running joke worldwide. A productivity study in 2023 also showed that businesses in India lose an estimated $22 billion annually due to time management issues. Now, working abroad, I've grown to appreciate the respect for everyone's time that punctuality represents. meetings usually start and finish as scheduled. And what's more, it's also professionally acceptable to excuse yourself for another appointment in case of an overrun, which means you have more time certainty and you can plan the rest of your day with confidence. I have these interesting conversations with my friends in India and with my sister when I speak to her about the reality of meeting etiquettes in an Indian corporate environment and see that they are diametrically different from my experience here in the UK. Now, my friends, I'm not saying either approach is right or wrong. The beauty lies in finding a balance. The sweet spot I found is maintaining a calendar discipline for professional commitment while creating space for spontaneity in personal life. The second aspect, my friends, is the vibrant public spaces and street life that you associate with India. When we visit India every summer, it is usual to see the vegetable vendors calling out their daily special, children playing cricket using lampposts or tree trunks as wickets, and groups of elderly men and women in deep conversation about things like politics, television shows, etc. And the chaiwala, who knows exactly how everybody prefers to take their cuppa. Now, according to urban studies research from MIT and the Indian Institute of Human Settlement, Indian cities have some of the most dynamic street life globally. Spaces where private life spills into public domains and creating a very organic community. What we often miss as expats isn't just the chaos, it's the actual lively quality of these spaces. In these spontaneous community spaces, you don't really feel alone. I remember while studying for my school and university exams, I used to go up to the open terrace very often to get some fresh air. And before long, you would have a neighbor who offers you a drink of water or a snack, or somebody who asks you about your studies. And somehow, being in public made the difficult material feel lighter. In urban design terms, these are what are called as third places. That's neither your home nor your workplace. And these serve as crucial community anchors. And in India, these spaces emerge organically rather than through careful urban planning. But you guessed it, my friends. This vibrancy in the street life comes with genuine challenges also. There can be a sense of a lack of privacy, so much so that you may feel that it's impossible to have a quiet moment or personal conversations in public. Noise pollution in Indian cities already exceeds the WHO recommendations by over 75% in most urban areas. Now, living abroad, I've come to appreciate the quiet parks, the orderly public transportation, and the ability to be anonymous sometimes. While there's definite peace in not having every neighbor know about everything about your business, but sometimes that can feel isolating too. Again, it would be great to strike a balance by creating small micro communities, whether that's through your cultural association, faith groups, or even regular gatherings at your nearby South Asian grocery store. Now, some Desi immigrants have also mentioned recreating the Adda culture through regular chai meetings in their homes. Successfully adapting to our new homes requires creating cultural bridges rather than cultural bubble. Spaces and opportunities that blend the community orientation of India with the structural benefits of your new countries. The next thing, my friends, that we often overlook is the multi-generational wisdom exchange. Back in the family home in India, my friend, we wouldn't need to search up everything on Google. We could just have our parents or grandparents share knowledge about easy home remedies for common situations, be it anything from how to remove turmeric stain to predicting the weather or how to get relief from sore throats. According to the data from the Population Research Center, even now, about 60% of elderly Indians live with their adult children, compared to less than 20% in most of the Western countries. Now, this creates what we call organic knowledge ecosystem in India that we don't often appreciate until it's gone. What we miss isn't just having parents and grandparents around. It's the entire intergenerational knowledge transfer system. A study in the Journal of Cross-Cultural Gerontology shows that this knowledge transfer significantly strengthens cultural identity and psychological well-being. There's something deeply grounding about learning things, not from YouTube, but from someone who's sharing the 60 years worth of experience. Growing up, I remember my grandfather teaching me how to play chess, explaining not just the moves of chess, but also the philosophy behind each piece. Things like, the king barely moves, yet the whole game revolves around him. Now, these aren't just practical skills being transferred, my friends. They can be worldviews, philosophies, and perspectives that can't be replicated abroad in a nuclear family, especially when both parents lead busy work lives. Again, as you expected, Multi-generational living can also come with its challenges. Privacy can seem like a luxury. Personal space can be limited. And generational conflicts about everything from career choices to relationships can play out in close quarters. In fact, studies have even found that intergenerational households report higher stress levels, especially during major life transitions. Living abroad, we tend to appreciate the independence that we have to make decisions without immediate family input. You can also appreciate that growth happens when you navigate life's challenges on your own terms. These days, it has become easier to find that balance through technology. Regular video calls with elders in my family aren't just social, they can be consultation sessions. Children can interact with grandparents more regularly. Also, what my wife does is maintain diaries with traditional knowledge, from recipes to folk remedies, creating digital archives of wisdom to pass on someday to our daughter. As our Desi friend recently said, we are creating digital villages to replace the physical ones that we left behind. The next bit is one that brings amusement, endless amusement, shall I say, for my British friends. Our intricate understanding of non-verbal communication, including the very famous Indian head wobble, eyebrow raises, and hand gestures. At work, seeing me nodding at different points in her presentation, my colleague asked me why I was disagreeing with her proposal. That's when I realized my Indian head wobble, which basically meant I'm listening or acknowledging a good point, was being interpreted as disagreement in my new country. We know as Indians we use significantly more contextual as well as non-verbal communication than many Western cultures. We operate in what anthropologists call a high context communication environment, where what's not said is often more important than what is. For us, this shared non-verbal language creates an incredible social shorthand. The ability to exchange glances with a family member across a room and know exactly what they are thinking, or also understanding subtle differences between various types of silence. And of course, the famous, or should I say, the infamous Indian head wobble, which can mean anything from a yes to a maybe to a I understand but disagree but won't say so openly. Strangely, this complex non-verbal system allows for social harmony by creating pathways for disagreement without confrontation. You wouldn't believe it, my friends, but a study from the Asian Journal of Communication has actually found that Indians living abroad reported communication fatigue from constantly having to verbalize things that would be understood implicitly back in India. But again, this indirect communication style can also create problems as well as misunderstandings. Expectations can go unspoken and then unmet. Conflicts can simmer beneath the surface without resolution. And in professional settings, this can lead to uncomfortable situations. Living abroad has taught me the value of clear and direct communication. There's a refreshing honesty in cultures where yes means yes and no means no. Initially, it's easy to get offended when your proposition is met with a direct no. But slowly you realize that it at least reduces the mental gymnastics of constantly having to interpret subtle cues. The key, my friends, is developing what linguists call code switching, which is the ability to adjust communication styles based on the context. With fellow Indians, go on, relax and share non-verbal shorthands. But in a multicultural environment, learn to practice more explicit and direct communication. The goal isn't to completely abandon your native communication style, but to add another style to your repertoire, expanding rather than replacing. And my favorite aspect of all, my friend, is the spirit of Jugaad compared to the structured problem solving that the Western cultures follow. Our beloved spirit of Jugaad is quintessentially Indian. It is our unique approach to problem solving, finding creative, resourceful solutions with whatever is at hand. Its ingenuity often born from necessity. Apparently, the Indian Jugaad, which is about thinking frugal, being flexible, and improvising and coming up with interesting breakthroughs, saves the average Indian household approximately rupees 15,000 annually. It's more than just economic. It's a mindset that builds creative confidence. From earthen pot fridges to makeshift windshield wipers, we are ever so familiar with temporary fixes that do the job until a proper repair can be carried out. But again, as you expect, this improvised approach can have drawbacks too. Jugaad solutions often prioritize immediate functionality over safety and durability. They can sometimes create even fire hazards, structural weaknesses, and other dangers. Importantly, DIY electrical repairs have reported as a reason for over 7,500 domestic fires annually in India. Living in the UK, I've come to appreciate the peace of mind that comes with doing things by the book. But then there's always a frustration that it cannot be done immediately unless it's an emergency situation. There's also something to be said for the respect for specialism. Plumbers, electricians, and other tradespeople are very expensive. Their knowledge isn't just about following the rules, but it's also about understanding complex systems and legalities in Western cultures. But as an Indian, I still resort to some hybrid jugaad, knowing when creativity is appropriate and when professional help is absolutely needed. For cosmetic issues or temporary solutions, a bit of Indian ingenuity works wonders. For anything involving electricity, gas, structural integrity, or safety, things are extremely regulated and have to be certified in many cases. Alas, my friends, don't the best innovations come from combining improvisational creativity of Jugaad with the rigorous scientific principles? So why forgo our improvisational ability? Thanks for staying with me so far, my friends. Now, I feel these 5 aspects, along with many others from the invisible fabric of Indian life, are things that we don't appreciate until we leave India. But here's what I've learned in my journey. Cultural transition isn't just about choosing one way of life over another. It's about conscious integration and taking the best of both worlds. So what can we do with these insights? Let me leave you with some practical takeaways, my friend. We can create intentional community spaces. Whether virtual or physical, we can establish regular gatherings that foster the spontaneous connections that we miss from Indian public life. We can build intergenerational bridges by documenting family wisdom, by scheduling regular conversations with elders, and creating systems that preserve cultural knowledge. We could practice communication flexibility, which means developing the ability to shift between high context and low context communication style, depending on the type of environment we are in. We can balance time orientations. We can maintain schedule discipline for professional commitments while creating the space and flexibility for spontaneity in personal life. And finally, we can apply enlightened Jugaad, which means maintaining the creative problem-solving mindset while knowing when professional solutions are necessary for safety and durability. Our global experience isn't about forgetting or replacing. It's about expanding. Each culture offers unique gifts and challenges. Our task is not to choose between them, but to weave them into something new. A third culture that honors both our roots as well as our wings. I'd love to hear from you, my friends, about what you think are the unexpected things that you miss about your homeland. Drop me your thoughts in the comments below and let's continue the conversation. If you're new here and this content resonated with you, consider subscribing for more content exploring the global Desi experience. Until next time, my friends, this is Vivian signing off from the Global Desi. Take care.